$134.82 is what the average person would spend on milk in 1 year if they lived in Boise, Idaho. Are you curious to know what it costs to live in Boise, Idaho? In today's video, that's what we're gonna get into. Hey, my name's Craig Flood. I am a realtor here in Boise, and if you're curious what it's like to live here and what the food costs are and taxes and all those things, that's what we're gonna cover today, and that's the kind of stuff that I cover on my channel. So if you're interested in that, feel free to like, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified when new videos get posted each week. And if you're thinking about relocating here and you're looking for a guide, somebody to come alongside you and help you, then you can email me, call me, or text me days, nights, or weekends, and I would be happy to help with that. Now let's get into it. We're gonna be talking about what the costs are of living in Boise, Idaho. And we're gonna cover things like home prices, rental costs, cost of food, water, internet, natural gas, garbage, sewage, gas prices, and taxes. And stick around to the end where I will compare Boise with other major cities on the West Coast in terms of cost of living. First, let's just talk about home prices. The median home price in Boise, Idaho is $515,000. Rentals, let's talk about rentals real quick. So the median rental rates in Boise are as follows. I'm gonna read these out. So the average across the board is $2,100 roughly. For a 2-bedroom, it's about $1,600. For a 3-bedroom, it's $2,100. For a 4-bedroom, it's $2,500. And for a 5-bedroom, it's $2,800. With that being said, I did just see a listing come up where it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, roughly 1,800 square feet for $1,950. Now let's get into some of the more kind of daily, monthly things that you'll be purchasing, like food, water, costs associated with housing, and things like that. So these are gonna be a little bit skewed. I'm really just gonna kind of unfold my example. So I am married, we have 4 children, and I'm gonna give you some of our numbers for what it costs for us to live here. So for food in 1 month, what we budget for a family of 6 with a bunch of hungry kids is about $1,000. Some of the unique things that we do is that we kind of go organic. So we're buying organic raw milk and meats from that same farm. So we buy meats in bulk, which kind of brings our costs up to about $1,000. And sometimes we definitely go over that because we like to eat out sometimes as well. Now we do have some other friends. They are a family of 5, 2 young ones with an infant, and they spend $500 a month. And they shop, I think, exclusively at Wingo, not buying anything organic. In terms of options of where you can shop, we have Fred Meyer's, which I think is a great place. Albertsons tends to be more expensive than Fred Meyer. Then you have Whole Foods, which is at the top of the list. Of course, you got Winco, and then we also have 2 Trader Joe's, one in downtown and one further out towards Eagle. Water. What we spend on water varies depending whether it's in the winter or the summer. In the summer, it's a lot more because we're also paying for water to water our grass and irrigate everything. Some houses in Boise, though, are on a canal system. I have a friend who lives on the bench in the Randolph Robertson's neighborhood, and he pays $37 for the entire year for flood irrigation water that comes through the canal system. Where I live on the bench, I am not on that water, so I'm paying city water, and it is a whole lot more expensive than what he pays. So in September, which was last month for us, we paid $135 for our water bill, and that covered showers, drinking, all that stuff, and then that also covered watering our grass 2 times a week. But in a month like May, we only spent $50 on water because we really aren't irrigating at all. It's more just showers, drinking, laundry, things like that that is consuming the water. For internet, we've chosen to use Sparklink. After researching it and spending time in Facebook groups, that seems to be the best option, though I have seen some people who use Comcast. For us, we pay $71.13, and that gets us a 600 megabyte upload. We have natural gas at our house, and that costs us $45 a month. And that runs our stove in the kitchen, it runs our furnace to heat the house, and then we do have a natural gas fireplace that we will typically use in the winter times. Next is garbage, recycling, yard, and sewage. We pay $191.92, and that's every 2 months. So if you were to divide that by 2, that would come out to roughly $95 a month. Next, let's talk about gas prices. We gotta get around, we gotta pay and put money in the tank. So here we go. In Idaho, the average gas price is $4.40. Now let's compare that to some other states. And I got it here on a paper. In Oregon, that is an average of $5.49. In California, that's $6.20. In Colorado, that's $3.70. And the national average across the US at the moment is $3.90. So Idaho is definitely above average. Now let's talk about taxes. First, we're going to talk about sales tax and income tax. Idaho does have a sales tax. Unlike its neighbors, Oregon and Montana, our sales tax is going to be 6%. And then we have income tax as well, and that range is from 1% to 6.5%. And the rate that you get is determined on how much money you make. So it's based on your earnings. Now let's talk about property taxes. This one might be interesting to you, especially if you're coming from a place like California. Now here, I'm just going to be focusing on Ada County and how they operate. First off, one thing to note, Ada County has a levy-based system versus a rate system. In a rate-based system, the assessor has direct and almost total control over individual property tax charges. An example of a rate-based system is California's Proposition 13. In a levy-based system, the property tax calculation is more complex. The equation that they use is budget divided by sum of values times property value equals property tax. So for Ada County, there is a property assessed value given each year by an assessor. And this value is essentially just based off what is currently happening in the market, i.e. like what did your neighbor's house just sell for? That's going to affect how they value your current residence. So if you check the description down below and you're curious to learn more about this, I've linked to a few pages for Ada County and how they do taxes. I've hopped on the phone with them before and they are super helpful and enjoyable to talk to. So if you're curious to learn more about how that works, I would recommend hopping down and doing that. There is something else too that relates to your property taxes, and it's the homestead or homeowner exemption. So if your home is your primary residence, Ada County gives a 50% of assessed value up to $125,000. So for example, say you own a home that gets assessed at $500,000, $500,000, you would then get an exemption of $125,000, which means you would only be taxed on $375,000. And don't forget, if you are buying a home, you need to go file that paperwork. So essentially, if you buy, say August of 2022, and the homeowners you're buying it from have already filed for that and are under that exemption, you'll be good through that year, but you will need to file for that exemption come 2023. If your homeowners hadn't done that, who you were buying the house from, then you will need to fill that out and file that. And if you are filing that, just know that the deadline to do that is December 31st each year. And just one final note on the medium property tax rate. I printed up a little thing and I'll post it here, but it outlines where does Idaho stack up versus the other states. Coming in at the top of the list is New Jersey at 1.89% in relation to property taxes, whereas Idaho is number 37 on the list, and as of this report, it is 0.69 as a medium for Idaho. All right, now let's do a little comparison. Let's see how Idaho stacks up to other states in terms of cost of living. So first, let's compare Boise to Los Angeles. So the way that this works is there is an overall number of 100, which is the average for the United States of America. And then from that, it rates it above or below that. So does Boise come in below the average or above the average? So these aren't necessarily concrete numbers, but it's just showing in comparison to the average. So with that being said, let's jump in. Boise overall is 116, 16.5 points above the average cost in America. Whereas Los Angeles comes in 176, so 76 points above the national average for cost of living. As you see on this image, there's some interesting stuff to see, but one interesting one is the medium home cost. At the time of this document being printed, they were registering Boise as being $496,000 and the average cost in Los Angeles being $883,000. Next, let's do Boise versus Seattle. So again, Boise's coming in 16 points above the national average, and Seattle's coming in at 167.8, so 67.8 points above the national average, which is a 44% difference in cost of living. And again, the medium home cost, Boise's coming in at roughly $500,000 and Seattle's coming in at $851,000. Now let's compare Boise and Salt Lake City. So Boise again is 16 points above the national average, and Salt Lake City is 122, so 22 points above the national average. So far, this is the closest comparison that we have, which kind of makes sense. We're not too far from each other. The median home costs, again in Boise being roughly $500,000, and Salt Lake City being $523,000. So a $26,500 difference. Now let's compare Boise and Denver, Colorado. Boise again at 116, Denver being at 127, so 27 points above the national average, which is pretty comparable, about a 10% increase. And the median home cost, again in Boise being about $500,000, in Denver, $534,000. And finally, now we're gonna compare Boise to good old Houston, Texas down south. And as you look at this chart, you're gonna see Boise on the right, Houston on the left, but Boise is gonna be 16 points above that national average, whereas Houston, Texas is 95, so 5 points below that national average. And the median home cost in Houston, Texas being $220,000, whereas in Boise, Idaho, you're right around that $500,000 mark. That wraps things up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. That is my take on cost of living in Boise. I'm curious to know your thoughts. What do you think about that? Was that higher? Was that lower? Also, I'm curious to know where you're watching this from. Leave a comment down below with the state and city that you are tuning in for this from. And finally, also, if there's things that you guys want to see, let me know in the comments below, and I'd be happy to make videos on that so that I can be your guide in determining if relocating to Idaho and Boise is going to be right for you. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell if you guys want to see more of this. I truly appreciate it. And if you're looking for somebody to help you in your transition to relocating to Idaho, I'd be happy to do that and be your guide. You can email me, you can text me, you can call me days, nights, or weekends. Enjoy your guys' day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.